The mirror that remembers, the reflection that isn't you. It started with a rumor. They said the old mansion on Ashbourne Lane wasn't haunted by a ghost, but by the mirror in the master bedroom, a century-old glass framed in cracked gold, rumored to remember every soul that ever looked into it. Nobody believed it until Evelyn Grant bought the house. She wasn't superstitious, just curious. The property was cheap, and the story made her smile. But the moment she saw the mirror, her breath caught. Its surface wasn't like normal glass. It shimmered faintly, as if something alive was trapped inside. Ever looked into a mirror and felt it looking back. That first night, Evelyn walked past it in the hallway. She paused, staring into her reflection, pale light flickering from her phone screen. But her reflection didn't mimic her movements exactly. When she tilted her head, it lagged just half a second. Barely noticeable, but enough to make her heart skip. She blinked. The reflection smiled. Evelyn gasped, stumbling backward, the phone clattering to the floor. When she looked again, her reflection was normal. Perfectly still. Perfectly her. She laughed it off. Just tired, she muttered. But the mirror wasn't done. The next morning, she noticed fingerprints on the inside of the glass, long, thin streaks from within, dragging downward as if something had tried to claw its way out. She wiped them away, or tried to. The marks didn't fade. They pulsed faintly, vanishing only when she looked directly at them. That night, she dreamed of standing in front of the mirror, whispering something she couldn't remember. And behind her, in the glass, a second figure whispered the words, back slower, softer, wrong. Dreams can't hurt you unless they remember what you say. When se woke, her reflection was still moving. She froze. The other Evelyn inside the mirror smiled with half her face, as if her muscles were learning to work again. Then, ever so slowly, the reflection lifted a finger and shushed her. Evelyn screamed. She threw a bedsheet over the mirror and ran out. She slept in her car that night, headlights glaring toward the windowed mansion. The next morning, the bedsheet was gone. The mirror was bare again, and perfectly clean, and written across the glass in fog was a sentence. "Don't ignore me this time." Evelyn's hands trembled as she backed away. "This time," she whispered. She didn't remember ever being here before. But a sudden flash hit her. A memory that didn't belong to her. A different woman, decades ago, standing in the same hallway, wearing the same terrified expression. She had the same eyes, the same scar on her chin, and she had smashed the mirror. Evelyn blinked, and the memory vanished. The mirror was intact. What if your reflection remembers your past lives? She called a local historian, desperate for answers. The man's voice was tired. That house. You bought the Grant estate?" Her throat tightened. "Yes? Why?" He paused. "The mirror belonged to Eliza Grant. She vanished in 1924. They said she was cursed. Claimed her reflection stopped copying her before she disappeared entirely. Her last name was Grant," Evelyn said weakly. "So is yours," he replied. That night, Evelyn taped newspapers over the mirror and locked herself in the living room. But she couldn't sleep. Somewhere upstairs, faint tapping echoed rhythmic, patient, like knuckles against glass. She covered her ears. "It's not real," she whispered. But the sound moved closer. Down the hallway, then into the living room. Tap, tap, tap. Her phone flickered on by itself, the front camera opening. On T-screen, she saw her reflection behind her, smiling. The mirror was in the hallway. "It shouldn't be here." Evelyn turned slowly. Nothing was there, but her reflection still waved from the phone screen. In a panic, she ran upstairs and grabbed a hammer. She stormed toward the mirror and screamed, "You're not me." The reflection laughed and spoke. "I was you." Evelyn hesitated. Her reflection tilted its head. "Do you really think you're the first, Evelyn?" It whispered. "You've done this before. You always do." The words echoed through her mind like static. Images crashed, broken mirrors, blood, screaming faces that all looked like hers. She dropped the hammer. The reflection leaned forward, pressing its palm to the glass. "It's your turn to remember." Evelyn's vision blurred. Her body felt pulled, dragged toward the mirror. She tried to scream, but her reflection opened its mouth wider, consuming the sound. She clawed backward, but her feet slipped. The last thing she saw was her own face reaching through the glass, eyes wide, mouth whispering, "Thank you." Then darkness. Morning came. The realtor arrived to check on the house after Evelyn stopped returning calls. The door was ajar, the air cold. Everything was silent except for the faint creak of a floorboard. Frosty. The mirror stood gleaming in the hallway, perfectly clean. And inside it, Evelyn's reflection stood smiling, frozen midwave. But her body was nowhere to be found. When you look into the mirror tonight, make sure it blinks when you do. Sometimes the scariest ghosts aren't the ones that haunt your house. The ones that remember you before you even lived.